Welcome to this amazingly special day of celebrating the 18th annual Connecticut Fallen Heroes Memorial Tribute. 18 years. I think that in its own right deserves a little bit of applause. My name is Marla Orozco, and I am so humbled and so honored to be here yet again, seeing so many familiar faces. I was talking to my son, who we'll meet a little bit later, which is quite special for me, this morning, talking to him about how long I've been involved in the Connecticut Fallen Heroes organization, and I can't believe it's been well over a decade. And that means so much to me. And I say that not because I want accolades, because believe me, it's all of you who deserve the round of applause, and all of you who deserve the support in honoring your family members, and I'm so humbled to be a part of it. This organization is really special to me, and so I'm really proud to be able to not only spend this day with you, but to be able to introduce such a worthy organization, and to be able to introduce so much respect to my son, who you'll meet later. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to the Connecticut Fallen Hero volunteers. We are a fairly small yet very mighty team, and there is so much work, countless hours that go into coordinating this event every single year. He's looking right at me, but I'm going to do it anyway. Thank you so much to Mike Mistroni, who hates the spotlight. But shaking his head. So thank you. This will probably be the last year you see me, because I'm about to get fired from my volunteer position. But I would be so remiss if I did not acknowledge him, because his heart bleeds with so much pride and love for this organization and for your family members and for the service that they put forth. And so, thank you. Thank you to every single volunteer. Your work, your dedication, your heart does not go unnoticed.
Thank you for you.
Oh, thank you. The Connecticut Fallen Heroes organization is dedicated to always remembering the brave military service members from Connecticut, as well as our country, who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty for our freedom. Unfortunately, the Connecticut Fallen Heroes organization has personally remembered 74 fallen heroes. And I'm really proud that our annual event is kept open to the public and free for all of you year after year. This is something that we are so incredibly proud of and so humbled to be able to do every single year. I will also say that donations really do help us. And so excuse me when I just take a moment to say, if you would be so kind to maybe patronize our raffle tables. If you saw, there's a massive Italian basket. There's some really wonderful things there, but those small gestures really do make a big impact in our ability to continue to serve you. So thank you so much for being here and allowing us to really celebrate this special day. So now, enough from me. Let's really get started. I would like to bring up Miss Leslie Menzel to honor us by singing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed
like to introduce Father Caleb Evans for invocation.
I invite you to pray with me at this time. O King and Judge of the nations, we remember before you with grateful hearts the men and women of our armed forces who in the day of decision ventured much for the liberties we now enjoy. Grant that we and all the people of this land may have grace to exercise these liberties in righteousness and peace. Through Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord. Amen.
I'm gonna have to start to request like a mini set. I'm starting to get older here. So I now would like to welcome the Mayor of Prospect, Mr. Bob J. Chatfield, and I have to say, the Fallen Heroes, we're so lucky that you welcome us with such open arms here to Prospect. I think we sort of found please Mayor, come on up, but we have found, I'll say a home here at Holiday Hill, and thank you so much to the staff. And we're just so grateful to be able to welcome you back. Every single year, and I don't know, do you guys know that he is the longest running elected official in the state of Connecticut and the sixth in the country? And always finds time to be able to come and welcome us, so thank you.
Thank you. Gold Star families, brother and sister veterans, and all military personnel, foreign military personnel that are here. I welcome you to Prospect and our fellow residents that are here today. I kind of had to join the Air Force. The recruiter lived in town, and I worked in a local hardware store, and he hung around there a lot, so I ended up joining in October of '61. 1962, I find myself in the middle of Germany, and I served in Germany for 3 years. And one memorable event that I'd never seen American Military Cemetery before. Well, they took about 300 of us from every base in Germany, Holland, and Belgium, and brought us to Luxembourg. And it was for the Patton Day Parade. And there's museums of him all over, there's statues of General Patton all over Luxembourg. And we marched, there's about 1,000 of us or more, plus the United States European Air Force band, and we ended up in Luxembourg Cemetery. Now, I had never been, as I've said before, in a military cemetery. And you walk through these big marble, and there's pictures of the battles on the wall, and you turn to the left, and there was over 5,500 crosses and stars of David. So we walked through the cemetery. Nobody was talking. It was all very quiet. And there's 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old men and women resting. That's a whole generation. I guess that's why they're all called the greatest generation. So to all the men and women resting in all military cemeteries all over the world, and little cemeteries like the Prospect Cemetery, there's several veterans, and there's veterans in every cemetery in the state of Connecticut and all over the United States. And we pay homage because they're the real heroes. They're the ones that did not come home. So I thank you all for coming to Prospect, and I would now like to just introduce real quick our state representative, Leslie Zupkis, from the 89th District.
Thank you. Welcome to Prospect. It's an honor to have you all here. And to each and every one of you that have served and are serving our country, thank you. Thank you for fighting for our freedoms. Thank you for fighting for what our flag stands for. And it's our job to continue to carry that fight for what you fought for. I come from a military family. My father, my brother, my grandfather, my daughter just got commissioned in the Navy. Go Navy, be Army. But thank you. we're truly grateful, and to our fallen heroes, thank you, and the families for what you've done for us. God bless you.
Before I go on in our program, I just want to acknowledge a very special volunteer who may have caught your eye over here in the corner, Ms. Peyton Froth. She's Miss Connecticut's outstanding teen. She's a part of the teen age group for the Miss America organization, and she's an absolute heart of service and is so honored to be able to be here with us today. So I just wanted to make sure I introduced her. So go ahead, give her a little bit, Caitlin. I've known Peyton since she was literally in the womb, and I'm super proud of her. I'll just brag for a moment. She has her own 501c3 called Peyton's Promise. I urge you to Google it because today it's not about her work, but she does some amazing work in her own right, and is also always willing to be there to serve any organization that needs her. So thanks for being with us. All right, so moving on in our program, I would like to introduce Vice President of Marine Corps Services from Sikorsky Aircraft, Mr. Dana Fiodaroni. Thank you so much for being with us today.
All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. So I've got the pleasure of giving what Mike calls a shout out to three terrific veterans today, and one of them isn't able to join us this afternoon, but I am going to read his remarks as well, and then I'll get on to the two individuals that are here. So I'd like to start first by telling you a little bit about Bruce A. Kale. So Bruce was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and attended St. Patrick's Grammar School and graduated from Bullitt Havens Tech in 1965. He went to work at Avco Lycoming as a QA inspector. He was drafted in 1967 and was sent off to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, an airborne ranger camp. Bruce went in at 225 pounds and quickly dropped to 198 pounds because, according to him, all they did is do running and calisthenics. He missed his mama's home cooking, and he said if you went to PX or any other place on camp, you better be running as a new recruit. From there, Bruce went to Fort Gordon, Georgia to become a military policeman. He went home for a few weeks afterwards and then flew out to Fort Lewis, Washington in 1967 to head out to Nha Trang, Vietnam, where he was assigned to the 272nd MP unit. His new unit was assigned to go out on convoys to guard the 1st Field Headquarters and other important high security jobs. The night he remembers most is when a firefight broke out in the early morning hours of Tuesday, January 31st, 1968. The North Vietnamese army had attacked, and after 7 hours later, there lay 28 enemy bodies from the villa across the road. Bruce fought valiantly along with his comrades, but sadly lost 2 of their own MPs that day. From there, Bruce went to Phan Dat, Vietnam, where he did dangerous town patrol, as well as watch over the POWs. He did many convoys over the course of 367 days in the dangerous jungles. He would return to the States and had a 2-week break before getting sent back out to Fort Hood, Texas, when on June 20th, 1969, he completed his 2-year service requirement. On June 1st of 1973, he received his honorable discharge. Bruce then started his career at Sikorsky Aircraft and was one of the most popular, colorful inspectors over the course of 28 years. I'd like to thank Bruce Kale for his service to our great company. Please join me in a round of applause. I have to admit, as well as I pull this next one out, that I know you said Mike doesn't like praise, but he asks me just about every year if I'd be willing to come and participate. In some years I've spoken, and all the years I've just been an audience participant, and I always get a little chuckle out of the fact that he asks, right? So if I'm not traveling, I'm more than happy to be here and spend just a little bit of time with some great people. So. All right, So our next service member is Leroy Myers. He's here in the front row, and actually spent a little bit of time with you last year as well. So it was good to see a familiar face, and also pretty excited to get to talk a little bit about three great gentlemen from Sikorsky, right? So my home company as well. So let me tell you just a little bit about Leroy. He was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut on January 2nd, 1956. Probably maybe a little longer than you think, right? He attended Shelton Grade School, Pumpkin Delight, Jonathan Law, Harding High, and eventually would graduate from Bob Grieve High School in Anchorage, Alaska. He briefly attended Bridgeport Engineering Institute, but decided that wasn't for him. So he enlisted in the Navy under the Delayed Entry Program in May 1975 and attended basic training at the Great Lakes Naval Recruit Station in the 24th Battalion's Company 908. Upon completion of basic, he then attended Lakehurst Naval Air Technical Training Command in Lakehurst, New Jersey, Class A School. Upon graduation, he was subsequently ordered to the U.S. Naval Air Station in Adak, Alaska, in the Aleutian Islands, otherwise known as the birthplace of the winds. There he served for 12 months supporting anti-submarine warfare operations with Orion P-3 squadrons, which were keeping an eye on Russia during the height of the Cold War. Leroy's best memories was the great fishing. Not so great memories of freezing his off. His next duty assignment was pre-commissioned training in Norfolk, Virginia with LHA-2 Saipan, but after a brief 6 weeks was abruptly reordered to support operations aboard the aircraft carrier USS America, which was departing for a South America goodwill cruise. Aboard the America, he was assigned to the Air Department's V-4 division, supporting all aspects of jet fuel purification, testing, and transfer for ship's ballast when needed. He then qualified for flight deck operations, and he shared a little bit with me. I'm not sure he was excited to qualify for flight deck operations. An 18-hour day seems pretty tough. Where he excelled from aircraft fueling duties, and eventually V-4 Division's flight deck cruise coordinator, directing the night flight operations over 3 Mediterranean deployments, supporting numerous battle group operations and exercises. Fond memories of remembering hearing "Good Morning, Men of America." This is Petty Officer Hart with weather and mail call. Not so fond were the "No shots, no liberty" announcements. Sad memories also of losing respected pilot Lieutenant Talcott, lost at sea during dawn patrol and exercise Trident. Upon Leroy's discharge from the military, he attended Sacred Heart University and then went on to a 39-year career at Sikorsky Aircraft, supporting O&R Blades Department as an inspector and evaluator. There he met his future wife, Sheila, where they have 3 children, Dean, Dave, and Michelle. Thank you, Leroy, for your service to our great country. And I'd ask if you could please join us up here. We'll take a few pictures. When Mike asked me to do this next year, I'm either going to have glasses or we're going to have 30-point font. All right, so now I'd like to recognize George Schulich. So George was also born in Bridgeport, Connecticut on October 10, 1952, and he attended St. John the Baptist Catholic Grade School in Bridgeport and then Stratford High School. His decision to enlist in the military was voluntary instead of being drafted. He departed for the Navy on October 20th, 1970, where he attended basic training at the Great Lakes Naval Recruit Station in Company 308. Of the 10 companies that make up a graduating class, Company 308 had the top honor of attaining the prestigious Color Company status for the Pass and Review graduation ceremony. Upon completion of basic training, he received orders to attend Quartermaster Class A school in Newport, Rhode Island, and subsequently acquiring that rating. Upon graduation, he received orders to the USS Aircraft Carrier Saratoga, CV-60, home-ported in Mayport, Florida. Although the Saratoga was assigned to the US 6th Fleet supporting Mediterranean operations, Saratoga, along with George, were ordered to the Gulf of Tonkin, where they were part of the Linebacker 1 and Linebacker 2 operations, supplying combat air support, rescue and evacuation operations, as well as offensive attacks in North Vietnam. Saratoga was subsequently awarded the Vietnam Service and Vietnam Campaign Medals, the Navy Unit Commendation, as well as 1 Battle Star for her role. In this theater of operations, George was assigned to the Navigation Division, where his duties and responsibilities centered around manning the helm, as well as supporting various watches, shipboard drills, and maintaining the ship's log. Meeting all of his rating and leadership requirements, he advanced to QM3 Petty Officer 3rd Class and became a Master Helmsman. During his time in service, he made multiple deployments supporting numerous battle group operations and exercises during the Vietnam War. Some of George's fondest memories of his service was not only all the wonderful ports of call, but the highlight of going through the Navy crossing the line ceremony, where seamen who have yet to cross the equator, polywogs, transition into the shellback designation upon doing so. Not so good memories were the loss of numerous pilots and POWs during their Vietnam deployments, as well as losing 3 shipmates and the injury of 12 during a shipboard fire while anchored off of Singapore, and just the overall stress of excessively long deployments. George married his longtime sweetheart Sandy on September 6th, 48 years ago, just 19 days prior to his discharge from the military on September 25th, 1974, and they went on to raise their 2 beautiful children, Michael and Karen. After his military service, George went on to a successful and rewarding 41-year career at Sikorsky Aircraft, supporting the O&R Blade Department's tip-cap manufacturing area as a lead person, and subsequently retiring in June 2016. Thank you, George, for your service to our great company.
We're just double checking on something. Traffic really messes up my program here. But while I'm checking, I would be very remiss if I didn't just take a moment to honor those of us who are here in the audience who are servicemen and women. If you would stand, if you're able, and be recognized, I really would like to take an opportunity to be able to salute you. So, no? Oh, I knew the room was full. And I hope that we can start to to realize that we need to show our appreciation not only on holidays, but every single day for the sacrifice and dedication that you've put out. So thank you. So I'm just going to welcome Dana back because he is going to so graciously speak on behalf of U.S. Navy Commander Caitlin M. McLeod. You thought the 8-point was back.
No, thank you. Yeah, I did just say that, right? The font was going to have to get bigger, or I was going to have to wear glasses. And Commander McLeod was fortunate. She sent me emailed remarks, and so they are pretty tiny. So I'd ask that you bear with me. I don't know if those are going to help. Thank you. So I'll do the best I can to do her words justice. Before I do that, though, I did want to say I shared it with I think with this crowd maybe a few years ago when I was asked to be the keynote speaker, a story about my grandfather, and I call him my papa. So if you guys don't mind, I'll refer to him as my papa still. And I shared with a couple of folks today, what it means to be a veteran and the mark that veterans, whether they've passed or they're here with us today, and the mark that you all leave on the families and the loved ones and the spouses that you leave. And so, I would share this as my papa helped raise me, and I was very fortunate that I got 40 years with him before he passed. And I would say, he passed as an old man, and that's a great way to pass along. But I still, to this day, wonder from time to time as I think about him, would he be proud of me? If I make a decision, am I going to disappoint his memory? And I just kind of think about the impact that our veterans have on the people that they touch. And whether you kind of think back about them and you have a laugh about a funny moment, or you shed a tear about something that you're sorry for. It's the wonderful nature of the men and women that decide to serve, whether they've been drafted or they volunteer. They're among the very best people that walk this planet. And so we've got a number of you in the audience. So I would say just one more time, I think just a round of applause for all you veterans and what you mean for that. Okay, so I'll try to do Commander McLeod justice here. All right, so good afternoon. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to join you today and the honor of saying a few words. I learned of this event from my predecessor, Commander Jeremy Watkins, who had the opportunity to attend last year. He's a hard person to impress, but this tribute really won him over. I can see why. For the event to have been running for 18 years is incredibly impressive and shows the commitment of the volunteers who put it on. Thank you all for this. For the Gold Star families in attendance, thank you. Thank you for being here today and for the sacrifices you've made for all of us. When thinking of military services, most people will associate warfighting, weapons, and strategy. They'll think of jets and aircraft carriers, tanks, submarines, and while that's all very flashy, what I think about are the people. I think about the people and their resilient nature. Service members have extremely diverse cultures, personalities, and backgrounds. They join the military to be rocket scientists, dentists, SEALs, and tuba players. Despite all these differences, military culture develops character traits that are shared by its members, and resiliency is one of the most easily seen traits. It was present in the service members of the past wars, like today's fallen hero, Sergeant John Corbett, who was lost in the Battle of Saipan during World War II. It's shared by current members who live in a different time, with very different challenges, such as maintaining national security during a global pandemic. It's shared by the military families, past and present, who learn to adjust to their service members' constantly shifting schedules, changing duty stations, and stressful assignments. And it'll be one of the first traits our newest recruits build as they embark on their military experience. In my current job at Navy Talent Acquisition Group New England, I have the pleasure of manning the fleet. At the recruiting command, we work with men and women who are starting their careers in the Navy. A lot of emotion comes with that. They are anxious, excited, nervous, and proud. I have the privilege of helping them prepare for the fleet in this next chapter of their lives. We can teach them regulations and ensure they are physically fit, but resiliency they naturally acquire starting in boot camp. They'll learn to overcome obstacles and how to rise to the challenges that they're faced with. Some will serve for about 5 years before they put down the uniform and join the civilian workforce with their newly acquired skills and traits. Others will plan on doing only a few years and find themselves still serving nearly 18 years later, asking themselves, where did all the time go? No matter how long they serve, they can know they gave their nation the ability to thrive, the freedom and security for their friends and families to prosper. I'm grateful for Sergeant Hurlbert, but the veterans we honor here today for the privilege to serve, for the men and women who are choosing to stand the watch for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for your willingness to just pivot on a dime. I appreciate that. We now have hold on. So I mentioned that I've been doing this, right, volunteering for over a decade, yet Mike still has very specific hand signals that I know mean you should stop talking now and wait. And I'm a very good listener. So I made you be quiet in the beginning. I'm almost tempted to say talk amongst yourselves, but I'm not that desperate yet. However, they are just talking amongst themselves. Mike, my friend. Oh, 1 minute, okay, great. So I think it's going to turn out to be really amazing because we're going to get double the keynote speaker, which, how amazing. 1 second, please. I cannot.
Yeah, she's gonna sing.
It was suggested I would sing. That's certainly the way to clear a room. So I think what I'm going to do is go here.
Perfect.
We're going to move on in our program. And then we may or may not have a second keynote speaker. Sit on the edge of your seat, remains to be seen. But to bring it back, we are doing something this year which is a first ever for the Connecticut Fallen Heroes organization. And so I would like to bring up Hartford Police Officer Brian Herman to do the honors.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us here today. On this day, we are brought together to remember some truly outstanding warriors who have gone on to complete yet another mission, protecting the pearly gates of heaven. George Patton once said, "It is foolish and wrong to mourn the men who died. Rather, we should thank God that such men have lived." My name is Brian Herman, and I am honored to be here today speaking with you about some of our thankless warriors, our military canines. In the spring of 2011, I was nearing the end of my enlistment with the U.S. Marines. As a young boy, I was excited to join the Marines, travel the world, meet and see exotic people in exotic places. However, in the spring of 2011, I realized my enlistment would consist of traveling from one desert only to be sent to another. Whether it was 29 Palms, California, or the Helmand Province of Afghanistan, I realized miles of sand did not always mean beaches and margaritas. While walking through headquarters where the high-ranking leadership of our unit was formulating our next mission, I overheard my company first sergeant talking with the company commander. The men were discussing how they needed to find several Marines to volunteer to become canine handlers for an upcoming deployment. Knowing I only had a few months left of my enlistment and nothing to lose, I popped my head into the first sergeant's office, interrupting the men and stating, If given the opportunity, I would extend my contract for another deployment, so long as I could be a canine handler. Before I could finish my sentence, an object flew past my head. The first sergeant transformed into a drill instructor, and to some colorful words were chosen, and I walked away thinking, well, that didn't go so well. The following week, I was called out by my platoon commander and provided orders to report to 3rd Combat Engineer Battalion, Charlie Company, where I would meet the rest of the selected canine handlers. I found out my dream came true. Upon meeting the small group, one individual in particular stuck out like a sore thumb. His name was Corporal Chad Speck. Speck, a larger than average man, appeared to be over 7 feet tall. The only thing I could think about was how the Taliban would for sure be spotting him and how I did not want to get stuck next to him. Little did I know we would go on to become lifelong friends. I quickly latched on to Speck, as this was not his first rodeo. He was well seasoned with a prior combat deployment and had already successfully graduated from the Improvised Explosive Device Detection Canine School, and he completed a deployment as a canine handler. 23 Marines were shipped off for a 3-month pre-deployment training evolution in Huntsville, South Carolina. We arrived in town where the only bar was an Applebee's and a lousy motel. Needless to say, 23 Marines at an Applebee's can get a little rowdy. The canine school was ran by a private company that in recent years had come up with a new idea of combating the casualties at war from improvised explosive devices, also known as IEDs. This was the Taliban's weapon of choice. The idea to combat IEDs was to utilize hunt and field trial dogs, imprinting them on explosives, where they could work off-lead, away from the handler, utilizing communication by hand signals and whistle casts. It was extremely impressive stuff to watch if you have never seen this before. The intelligence and drive these dogs had were truly amazing. The first day at the school, we were informed that we would be paired with a canine by personality. The canines utilized in this program were Labradors because of their keen nose and intelligence. Day 1, I was excited to meet my dog, assuming based on my type A personality and Greek godlike physique, I would be paired with a big black Labrador that was squared away. I quickly found out that was not the case. I was paired with the smallest female yellow lab named Sunny. I thought this must be a joke. Corporal Speck walked up to me with an ear-to-ear grin. He could clearly see I was not amused. Speck introduced Sunny and I to his canine, Mia. Mia was a sweet, small black lab and the 2 smallest dogs of the group. They both got along great and would often play nonstop for the entire day. In 2009, Speck was paired with Sergeant Mia, and after undergoing the rigorous training in South Carolina heat, they were both deployed to the Helmand province of Afghanistan to do what they do best: hunt IEDs and the men who placed them in the ground. Mia and Speck were found to be assets of their unit, finding numerous IEDs. During this deployment, Sergeant Jesse Balthazar, Corporal Jeffrey Stanfest, Corporal Paul Miller, and canines Harley, Cole, and Rupert would eventually make the ultimate sacrifice. There is no doubt that the work these men and these canines did saved countless lives. Now, in 2011, Speck and Mia would be paired again, deploying to the same region of Afghanistan. Speck, Mia, Sunny, and myself loaded onto a large C-5 Galaxy cargo plane. I found this odd, as the plane was empty except for us. If you've never seen a C-5 Galaxy before, to put it into perspective, you can drive a tractor-trailer truck into it. It's about the size of a basketball court. I remember us rolling out our sleeping bags to sleep on the floor. Shortly after falling asleep mid-flight, I awoke, shivering like I was going to die of hypothermia. I looked over, and Sunny was staring at me, and I'm pretty sure that sweet little dog had a lot of questions by now as to where we were heading. Once in country, Speck and Mia would spend the rest of the deployment side by side, through the good of times and bad, sharing sleeping bags, keeping each other warm, trying to keep each other down, and most importantly, trying to keep each other alive. The team would go on to find numerous IEDs during the deployment, while clearing a safe path of travel for the Marines behind them. The days were long and often in extreme heat. Little Mia would burn her paws in the hot sand, but continue to press on, truly embracing the motto, man's best friend. When times were tough and the holidays came around, Mia always did a great job keeping a smile on the Marines' faces. It would be hard to stay down when you see happy little Mia come trotting on by. When the deployment came to an end and we flew back together, I quickly came to the realization that no canine handler prepares for the moment of arrival stateside. On previous deployments, landing and getting off the plane was always such a sense of being alive, smelling the fresh grass, looking around at our beautiful country, and having the utmost appreciation for the greatest land in the world. Thoughts of what my first meal would be, where I would go, what I would do. But not this time. This time, we all landed, and right away we were greeted by the company that trained us and provided us with the canines. For it was at this moment that Mia and the rest of the canines would have to be turned over, with the possibility of never being seen again by their handlers. I will never forget the amount of emotion that consumed my soul on this day. Looking around and seeing all these tough Marines with running tears hugging their beloved canines. Most of these Marines owed their lives to these dogs, and they forged bonds that could never be broken. Speck vowed to do everything in his power to be reunited with Mia. Trying to adopt a military canine is no easy task. Oftentimes, the canines are reutilized by the military or turned over to a federal agency to continue their mission. Mia was eventually medically retired after that deployment, and Speck, being the stubborn man from Wyoming that he is, continued on with the paperwork, calls, and constant requests to adopt Mia. Eventually, this determination paid off as Speck and Mia were reunited. At the time, Speck was still serving in the Marine Corps, stationed in Hawaii. Due to the grueling tempo of the Marine Corps and knowing it would not be fair to Mia, Speck had Mia sent to his mom, Angie's house. Unbeknownst to him, and shortly after Mia had arrived, Angie was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, which started a new mission for Mia, supporting Grandma. Through countless chemotherapy treatments, Mia stood right by her side, providing support and unconditional love as she did with Speck. Angie successfully overcame cancer and has been in remission for years. Despite time passing, whenever Speck returned home, Mia would not leave his side. Following him everywhere, sleeping by his side, and never forgetting her Marine Corps training or the bond they forged. This year, we got the unfortunate news that Mia had cancer. Speck, who is now serving the community as a police officer in Rhode Island, heard the news that Mia did not have much time left with us. He quickly dropped everything and hopped on the first flight to Wyoming, where Mia was still with Angie. On Thursday, January 28th at approximately 5:30 p.m., Mia went on to complete her very last mission, guarding the pearly gates of heaven. Mia left us peacefully, surrounded by her loved ones. Although Mia was not your average lab and endured more than most could imagine, the Speck family sure made Mia live like a princess in her retirement years. Mia will always be remembered as the sweet, happy little lab that we all knew her to be. It's true, you know, all dogs do go to heaven. Semper Fi, Mia, and see you in Valhalla.
And for those of you in the back of the room who maybe didn't hear the whispers, that was totally a surprise. So I think it makes it even more heartfelt. And now continuing on, remembering one of our fallen heroes, I would like to bring up State Senator Tony Hwang.
Thanks, Marla.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today. I am State Senator Tony Hwang. I represent the towns of Fairfield, Easton, Westport, Newtown, and now Bethel. I'm so honored to be here with you today because we are here to honor the fallen hero, Johnny E. Hurlburt. But it's an unusual story because it happened in July 1944. Army Sergeant Hurlburt was a member of the 105th Infantry Regiment, 27th Infantry Division from Madison, Connecticut, and he was killed July 7th that year during a massive attack against the 105th on the island of Saipan. And it's remarkable that after 77 years, he was finally brought home to rest in peace and given emotional closure to a military hero that made the ultimate sacrifice. So today, we honor his memory, we honor his sacrifice, and we honor the legacy of his name and his family. We have here today Kathleen Esposito, the niece of Sergeant Johnny Hurlburt, the daughter of John's sister, Doris Hurlburt Griffin. And thank you, Kathleen, for being here today. And thank you to your mother and the entire Hurlburt and Griffin family for your sacrifice on behalf of our country. As I prepared for this, I was reading and I was so touched because I want to quote Kathleen's comments upon realizing that he will be honored. And it said, it began with a knock on your door. And when you answered it, 2 Army officers in full military dress stood outside, paying their respect. And Kathleen, you said you knew what was coming. And yet, you felt an overwhelming emotion. That is why 77 years later, we are doing this, because it never eases. And that's why we're here to honor those that made the sacrifice. But you also had a poignant story that your mother told of you, shared with you, that she would talk about her brother Johnny. And she'd get out the letters and look at them and reminisce and fondly remember him. And she would sing, "When Johnny Comes Marching Home." And then all the kids would chime in. And for you, when those 2 servicemen left, you couldn't stop singing that song for days and days, because it brought back the memory that our fallen soldier's family will never lose. The loss of a loved one. So, and you said this, and you said to your mom up in heaven, "I get it. Yes, he's finally home. Although he's not marching home, he's coming home." So thank you, Kathleen, for sharing that story to remind us why we're here today, why we honor our fallen soldiers. For me, as a policymaker, it is important for us to never, ever forget. We need to bring every soldier home. for those missing in action, for prisoners of war, for those that are injured, for those that are continually struggling with the perils and the dangers and the evils of war. We need to bring them all home, every single one of them. Even the ones that are home, we have an important responsibility to ensure that they are home at peace. And we need to provide the supportive services for their health, their mental health, and to honor them. We leave no one behind. This is important for me, and as long as Michael Mastroni asks me, I will always be here to honor the soldiers. Because for me, as a young child growing up in Taiwan, living in the shadow of communist China, under the constant fear and danger of a military attack, a stark and dark reality that exists right now today, and it existed and unfortunately is happening for the people of the Ukraine. To me, as a child growing up, the American soldier is not someone we see at services and Veterans Day and Memorial Day parades. For me, the American soldier was a protector, was an ambassador, and a symbol of freedoms and liberties that defined what America meant to me as a child. It is why my family wanted to come to America. So I'm grateful to be an American, doggone proud, and I'm so honored to support those who protect us and preserve our American way of life and freedoms. So we do this ceremony, and it is a struggle. It's a beautiful Saturday. There are 100 other things you could do, and I'm grateful that you're here. And for those that can't be here, I hope you realize that ceremonies and honors matter. I'm going to quote President John F. Kennedy that says that as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not just to utter the words, but to live by them, just as our soldiers have done so when they made the sacrifice, and their family to this day, 77 years later, remember them. So, 70 plus years later, better late than never, welcome home, Johnny. And may God bless you, your family, and the United States of America.
Thank you so much to both of our speakers. So every year when I come to this ceremony, I always think how pertinent it is to think about how people live on through the stories that we tell about them. And I think it's so important to echo what Senator Kwong said. Hearing the stories, keeping the memory alive, not only on special holidays, but every day. I really think that's how we perpetuate the memory of those who have fallen and those who have served. And it really touches me that this I always describe it as one of the most profoundly impactful things that I get to attend, and I really feel very blessed for that opportunity. So I mentioned our real original, no offense, keynote speaker has been able to make it with us. There was a little bit of traffic that was precluding her way, but I'm so thankful that U.S. Navy Commander Caitlin M. McLeod has made it here to be with us today and is still willing to share her remarks.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here today. Well, my day has not gone as planned, and I hear Dana has already given my best material so far. I do want to at least tell you, I knew I was going to really love today, and the event that you all hold here, just based on its reputation that it was homegrown, it was from folks that don't have to be here, don't have anything specific that's drawing them here today, other than a love of country, a love for veterans, and appreciation for those who have gone before them. So I can sincerely say it already lives up to everything that I've been told about it. To Sergeant Hobart's family, thank you so much. I thoroughly appreciate seeing you here today, remembering a veteran years after a battle was fought, long before many people that were in this room were born yet. So that's incredible. For everyone else in here, I can see a lot of different varieties of service. I can see the covers on that people are wearing that are coming from Marines and Air Force and Navy. I think that's one of the best things about a service family, being a service member, is while we are quite competitive on our separate branches, when you get in one room together, we really do all come together. And I think anybody that knows about the Battle of Saipan, that is a great example of a location where all of our members of the services, the Navy was in the Philippine Sea, the Marines were storming the beaches when it happened, the Armies were holding down the fort, the Air Force were pretty new to the game, so I think that's a solid example. I'm looking at you, I see that. I think that's a solid example of how all of our services can really come together to best represent the United States. So thank you for having me here today. I appreciate all of you coming out and showing that your appreciation for our veterans, for our current service members, and all the support that you give our young men and women who are really looking to join, because as much as I like not to blink, I've already been in almost 18 years now, and we're already looking to pass the torch on to the next folks that are going to stand the watch. So thank you again, and I appreciate you all.
And thank you so much. I know it's been a day, but we really, really appreciate you being here. I would now like to bring back up, invite Ms. Leslie Menzel back up. She's going to sing God Bless America for us.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to
tradition. And now I would like to re-invite Father Caleb Evans for our closing prayer.
Once again, I invite you to pray with me. Almighty God, we commend to your gracious care and keeping all the men and women of our armed forces at home and abroad. Defend them day by day with your heavenly grace. Strengthen them in their trials. Give them courage to face the perils which beset them. And grant them a sense of your abiding presence wherever they may be. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
So now we come to the point in the program which I feel like it's probably one of the most, for me, impactful and emotional parts, and as the MC, the hardest, because I always want to give everyone due respect by pronouncing the names absolutely perfectly. However, I would ask for your forgiveness in advance because I am human, and despite my countless practice, if you could feel my tummy, it feels like a million butterflies. So please know I say this with so much honor and respect. And I would like to invite my son Finley to come to the stage. To help us honor our fallen heroes. These are our fallen heroes remembered through the years, starting from 2004. Private Cheyenne N. Seymour, U.S. Army, Trumbull, Connecticut. Senior Airman Guillermo Nazario, U.S. Air Force, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Corporal Jordan C. Pearson, United States Marine Corps, Milford, Connecticut. And if I may, if the families are here, we have a gift for you, so if you would not mind coming up to receive that, Peyton will be happy to give it to you. Private First Class Nicholas A. Medeiros, Wilton, Connecticut. Lance Corporal Philip A. Johnson, United States Marine Corps, Enfield, Connecticut. Private First Class Stephen K. Richardson, United States Army, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Petty Officer, 3rd Class, Nathan B. Bruckenthal, United States Coast Guard, Ridgefield, Connecticut. Specialist, Tanya S. Avery Felder, United States Army, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Captain Jason R. Hamill, United States Army, Salem, Connecticut. Lance Corporal Lawrence R. Philippon, United States Marine Corps, West Hartford, Connecticut. Specialist Wilfredo Perez Jr., United States Army, Norwalk, Connecticut. Staff Sergeant Martin F. Troy, United States Army Air Force, Norwalk, Connecticut. Corporal Stephen R. Bixler, United States Marine Corps, Suffield, Connecticut. First Lieutenant Thomas J. Brown, United States Army, Shelton, Connecticut. Sergeant David J. Kohler, United States Marine Corps, Glastonbury, Connecticut. Corporal Kevin Jack Dempsey, United States Marine Corps, Monroe, Connecticut. Staff Sergeant Richard Rick Eaton Jr., United States Army, Guilford, Connecticut. Captain Brian S. Latendre, United States Marine Corps, New Britain, Connecticut. Staff Sergeant Joseph Fanoff II, United States Army, Eastford, Connecticut. Sergeant Felix M. Del Greco, United States Army, Simsbury, Connecticut. Chief Warrant Officer William I. Brennan, United States Army, Woodbury, Connecticut. Operations Specialist Seaman Tyler J. Connolly, United States Navy, Glastonbury, Connecticut. Sergeant Benjamin L. Gilman, United States Army, Meriden, Connecticut. Warrant Officer Michael A. Kite, United States Army, Waterbury, Connecticut. Chief Petty Officer Jason D. Lewis, United States Navy, Brookfield, Connecticut. Lieutenant Michael P. Murphy, United States Navy, Patchogue, New York. Corporal Ahn, United States Marine Corps, Waterford, Connecticut. Chief Warrant Officer Richard Lee, United States Army, Wallingford, Connecticut. Private First Class Ronald Howard, United States Army, Bethany, Connecticut. Staff Sergeant Ronald W. Cardona, United States Army, Gardner, Massachusetts. Private First Class Kyle J. Kotu, United States Marine Corps, Providence, Rhode Island. Specialist Andre Craig Jr., United States Army, New Haven, Connecticut. Private First Class Anthony D'Agostino, United States Army, Waterbury, Connecticut. Private First Class Melissa J. Hobart, United States Army, East Haven, Connecticut. Sergeant Stephen J. DeLuzio, United States Army, Glastonbury, Connecticut. Specialist David R. Fahey Jr., United States Army, Norwalk, Connecticut. Sergeant First Class Dahan Park, United States Army, Watertown, Connecticut. Sergeant Robert Elia, United States Army, Shelton, Connecticut. Private First Class Deborah P. Noonan, United States Army, Watertown, Connecticut. Staff Sergeant Vincent M. Stabile, U.S. Army, Bronx, New York. Special Warfare Operator Chief Brian Bill, United States Navy, Stamford, Connecticut. Private First Class Eric D. Sufrene, United States Army, Waterford, Connecticut. Staff Sergeant Edwin Rivera, United States Army, Waterford, Connecticut. Sergeant Robert Leska, United States Army, Trumbull, Connecticut. Sergeant Joseph Nolan, U.S. Army, Waterbury, Connecticut. Private First Class Thomas E. Donovan, U.S. Army, Norwich, Connecticut. Lance Corporal Tyler O. Griffin, United States Marine Corps, Voluntown, Connecticut. Lieutenant Junior Guard Michael DiBartolomeo, United States Navy, Stamford, Connecticut. Corporal Heka Latour, United States Marine Corps, Waterbury, Connecticut. Corporal Frank G. Navarro, United States Army, West Haven, Connecticut. Captain Andrew Pedersen Kell, United States Army, Madison, Connecticut. Specialist 4, Philip E. Raminsky, United States Army, Highland Falls, New York. Specialist Diver Robert E. Stepham, United States Navy, Waterbury, Connecticut. Lieutenant Colonel Robert E. Storrs, United States Air Force, Ozone Park, Queens, New York. Lance Corporal Lester R. Aberdeen, United States Marine Corps, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Private First Class Lenwood T. Harrell, United States Army, Waterbury, Connecticut. Specialist Robert W. Hoyt, United States Army, Ashford, Connecticut. Private First Class William A. Mastroni, United States Army, Stratford, Connecticut. Specialist 4, Robert Tilquist, United States Army, New Haven, Connecticut. Senior Master Sergeant Andre R. Goulet, United States Air Force, Waterbury, Connecticut. Electronics Tech 2nd Class, Dustin L. Doyen, United States Navy, Suffield, Connecticut. Intelligence Tech 1st Class, Corey G. Ingram, United States Navy, Poughkeepsie, New York. Intelligence Tech 1st Class, Timothy T. Eccles, Jr., United States Navy, Manchester, Maryland. Specialist 4, Ralph S. Zanotti, United States Army, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Corporal Fergus F. Connors, United States Army, Stamford, Connecticut. Private Eugene L. Manzel, United States Army, Hartford, Connecticut. Lance Corporal Norman J. Spinard, United States Marine Corps, Stamford, Connecticut. First Lieutenant Robert M. Kearney, U.S. Army, Syracuse, New York. Boatswain 2nd Class, Russell J. Fant, United States Navy, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Sergeant Russell T. Fant, United States Army, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Lance Corporal Kelton T. Miller, United States Marine Corps, Guyton, Georgia. Senior Airman Lawrence P. Manlapit III, U.S. Air Force, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Sergeant John B. Trotter, United States Army, Marble Falls, Texas. Sergeant John Hulbert, U.S. Army, Madison, Connecticut. And if we can just take a moment. Thank you so much for being here with us today. This concludes this concludes our ceremony. I cannot express how happy we are to be able to, in a very small way, help you remember your family members. And in continuation of that, if you would not mind meeting us on the patio, we have a ceremonial releasing of the doves, and just an extra way of remembering. Also, one last plug, sorry, it seems inappropriate at this time, but think about the raffles. And we'll add a little light to the mood. But if you could meet us on the patio if you're able, we would really appreciate it.
That one's overdone. Yeah, that one wants a lot around the seat right there. Imagine having one of those laying on here.
Look at that one, Mommy. Look at that one. I think one underneath.
Oh, look at the dead. Yeah, it's walking.
Kevin, for a swim. He's thirsty today.